Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is Big B, Brien Hanley, along with Tim Fitzgerald. Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. Appreciate everybody being in here. Today, we are talking, just kind of putting the nail in the Big 12 conference as far as football is concerned. We've got our power rankings that we're going to come out with, end of the year power rankings, and where everything stacks up. It was a topsy-turvy world in the Big 12 this year. Everything flipped upside down based on predictions, media predictions, people like myself, Fitz, and everybody else. But to me, I thought it made it a better situation for the conference. Unpredictability is what I like. And you know what I always say? I love chaos. And if the Big 12 wasn't anything this year, it was absolute chaos, Fitz. So we're going to get into it. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to hit the notification bell. We're going to continue to bring you real content of things that actually matter and can happen. So continue to give us, attention, support if you choose, if you like what we're doing. But if you don't, tell us that, and we'll give you some other things and out there that might pique your interest. But Fitz, just first thoughts on this crazy how the conference went this year in football. It was absolutely unbelievable.
It was like 52 card pickup. Just throw them out there and see what order they're in. It was great and awful at the same time. I mean, you just didn't know how to put these teams in pecking order. Remember the slow climb that Arizona State made? How long it took them to convince us, oh, this is real. And boy, was it real. It was a crazy year. I'll be intrigued to see if next season follows suit. I'll be really interested in seeing how the Big 12 media tries to rank these schools now that we have 1 year under our belt with these 16 schools together. But nobody could have or did predict the utter chaos that happened in Big 12 football this year. And I do note that you're a fan of chaos, but apparently if it snows in Frisco, it's too much chaos for you. Yep, nailed it.
Don't get me started. That was a nightmare. I mean, it was like the apocalypse. Just nothing open. You went to the grocery the day before, and no bread, no meat, no nothing, no milk, no eggs, and literally the snow was on the ground for 36 hours. But don't get me wrong, it was a lot, and it was crazy, and everything shut down. But yeah, and I'm over it. I'm over snow. My blood's thinned out. I'm done. I'm done. But let's get into these rankings, man. First things first. Oklahoma State, absolutely bottom of the conference, number 16. It was a colossal failure in Stillwater this year. The collapse was everywhere, from offensive firepower. Couldn't stop the run. Couldn't stop defenses. It was just an absolute disaster. In Oklahoma State, it seems like they recognized it, Fitz, because they have made wholesale changes. They basically got rid of everybody but the head coach, and they made the head coach take a pay cut, which I thought was weird in the simple fact of you're going to cut the guy's pay and give it to NIL, I guess, and you want him to change everything but him. And my thought was, what's the point in that? I go, did you really? I mean, I don't know. I like Gundy. I think he's a great coach, but something inside of me thought that Gundy was going to step down, maybe take a year off and go somewhere else. Doesn't seem like that's the case. I do think that's good for Oklahoma State because, like I mentioned, he's a good coach, but it was a colossal failure in all aspects in Stillwater.
Yeah, it was. I feel bad. I mean, I'm friends with a couple of the dudes that got let go. And I just think it's interesting how this season turned out to be everyone's fault but the head coach.
Yeah.
That's how I read that. And that doesn't make sense. I think he's a tremendous coach. I just think he's having a large amount of issues adjusting to the current climate of college athletics with the NIL and portal and all the stuff going on and the seeming shift towards player power over coach power. I don't think he's handling it very well. We'll see if he kind of gets himself back on track. But boy, Doing an entire staff and roster rebuild doesn't usually mean you're going to have an immediate turnaround. It might come in a couple years or even like 2 years, but immediately, I don't know. I think they might be in for another long haul.
Yeah, well, it just didn't go. Nothing went right. It almost makes you think that the previous season was a fluke. Versus actually something that was sustainable, because clearly it wasn't. At number 15, I got Arizona. Now, and I'll just go ahead and reveal number 14 is Utah. A lot of people are going to say, come on, Big B, what are you talking about? Arizona whipped Utah, and they did. But at the end of the year, Utah was playing better than Arizona. Arizona, I mean, you saw the head coach out 45 minutes before the game, smoozing with boosters. Their team had totally quit. Utah was playing horrible, but Utah didn't quit. That's the one thing that you can say. Utah did not quit. Couldn't figure it out on the field, but they were still fighting. Arizona was not fighting. Arizona had cashed it in, and the coach looked like he had cashed it in. So that's the reason that I have Arizona at 15 and Utah 14. Look, it's got to be, I mean, if we're doing a power rankings, it's got to be how you're playing. Now, you can't forget about everything that happened throughout the season. You can't forget about that, because that matters. However, at the end of the year, it was clear that Arizona had cashed it in, and they weren't any good.
Yep.
Utah just wasn't any good, but they had not cashed it in. That's why I have them ranked that way, Fitz.
It's a difference in head coaching and how they handled bad times. Kyle Whittingham was, let's just keep going forward, guys. Let's stay together. Let's make the best of this. Let's try to learn something from this. And at Arizona, it was like, hey, let's get on to the next season. I'm done with this. And that's not a good signal to send your team, your school, your fan base, anyone. I will never quite understand or get over a head coach being out in the parking lot talking to donors an hour before kickoff. That should have been a fireable offense, if you ask me.
Never seen it. Never seen it. And the only reason that I could think it wouldn't be is if the AD said, hey, man, I need you to come out here and do this. And if he did, then what are you doing? Because literally the athletic director's job, the main job, fundraising. And if you're not out there doing that and you need the head coach to step in, then maybe the president should say, well, what the hell is this athletic director doing? So I don't know. I'm not in any of those meetings. I don't want to get behind the scenes of any of that. I'm just telling you certain aspects of what I know should be going on, and what I know for an absolute fact. Your head coach shouldn't be doing that an hour, 45 minutes before kickoff, period, end of story. At number 13, I got UCF, Fitz. Ton of UCF fans before the season gave me grief because I picked them ninth. You don't know ball. You don't know what you're talking about. They're going to be so much better. They're going to finish no lower than fourth. You're crazy. And about midway through the year, we didn't hear from a UCF fan for the rest of the season. And all I was saying was, I'm not sold on their quarterback, and they still don't know how to tackle. And that's all I said was they didn't prove that they can tackle. They didn't address it, and they brought in a quarterback that was mediocre. Well, it turned out they still didn't know how to tackle, and their quarterback was mediocre, and they missed. I mean, and so they were terrible. And so much terrible that their head coach, although he resigned, went to go be the offensive coordinator at Florida State. So UCF, I still think, is a hidden gem. I'm not going to come off of that just because of the fan base and the excitement that program. I thought they made an outstanding hire in bringing back Scott Frost. I thought it was amazing. I really do, Fitz, because that was a guy that didn't want to leave. He just felt obligated that he needed to leave. Get him back in the fold. I think UCF, it may take a year or two. Doesn't have to, but I think they're going to be back. But as far as 2024, they weren't a very good football team.
No, they weren't. And I hope Scott Frost has, cleaned up some of the personal things going on with him that have prevented him from success since he went to Nebraska. And honestly, I hope he has a great deal of success at UCF. I think it's important for the Big 12. I think their fans deserve it and have earned it. They put in their time. They've had some success and they want it back. That's a hungry fan base. Did they go over the top Yeah, a little bit. But
Yeah.
that's what does fans stand for, Big B?
Fanatic.
You got it. You got it. And they were.
Yeah. And like I said, and it was I just didn't think they were going to hit on the quarterback. When I saw KJ Jefferson, I was just, I don't know. I thought they could run the football, but they still couldn't stop the run. They couldn't do enough in the passing game to be able to win those type of games. So
Yep.
At number 12, I have Houston. Some people might say that this is too high for Houston. I don't. This is another team, Fitz, that at the end, first of all, they didn't quit in any game. And I don't think anybody thought they were going to be any good this year. And they technically weren't very good, but they didn't quit in any football game. They fought in every single one, upset a few teams, including Kansas State, in games that nobody thought they should win, and they did. They're doing another big transfer class in Houston. I think they're going to get even more in the spring transfer. I just have a feeling, Willie Fritz is going to have this thing up and rolling. I have that feeling. If they get to a bowl game next year, look out, Fitz. Look out, because I'm telling you, it's coming.
Man, he's good at what he does. You know, he fought through this year, but he found he made the most of it. He found some success, had some good wins, sifted through his roster, kind of found who's invested and who wants to really be there, and will now build off of that. It's going to be methodical, old school methodical, with leveraging the transfer portal thrown in, and I think it's going to be very entertaining to see the process, because it will be a process, and they will take a step forward this upcoming year, followed by a couple more beyond that until they're fighting at the top of the conference. I truly believe that with Willie Fritz there.
Yeah, absolutely. I just right around the corner. It's there. Get to a bowl game. You get a recruiting class with some Texas kids, some high school Texas kids in there, and look out. Look out. I'm just warning people. I'm just warning you. Number 11, I got Cincinnati. Look, I picked Cincinnati near the bottom of the conference. I thought they had finished 15th. I thought they were going to be terrible. And they started off like a house of fire. They were 5-2, and even one of those games they let get away. They were ahead of Pitt, 27-3, and they end up losing 27-3 late in the third quarter, and they end up letting that game get away. But they were 5-2 at one point. And next thing you know, they lose every game the rest of the season. Don't make a bowl game. I thought that was important for Scott Satterfield to be able to do. They did not do it. But I would say for a lot of people, I think they finished better than what expectations were. So 11th is a good spot for them. And I feel like they might be able to build off that. Even though the season ended terrible, I feel like, you know what? They found lightning in a bottle. They found a quarterback. This is a program that did not miss in the transfer portal and the quarterback. And I feel like they'll be able to build off this. Because, again, Cincinnati's got good high school football there in Ohio. They'll be able to get some transfers. I feel like this roster is on its way up.
Agreed. I thought the start of the year was kind of the positive taste of success that he needed. And we'll see if he can sort that out from here on out and continue to build. This is a really big test for him. I think season 3 will decide his fate. If he has another finish like this, if he finishes outside of the bowl picture, he might be done in Cincinnati. I don't know what the nature of his contract is right now as I sit here, but that's another prideful program. Luke Fickell taught them to expect success, and that hasn't followed. And now we'll see how much more tolerance for this, at best, mediocrity that the Cincinnati fan base has.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be honest with you, they're pretty knowledgeable football fans. They want to see some good football. I'm not sure they're going to tolerate this based off what Luke Fickell had, the success that he had. I don't think they thought it would drop this far.
No.
So we'll see. Big year next year for Scott Satterfield in Cincinnati. And number 10, I got KU. KU was playing about as well as anybody in the country the last month of the season until the last game. So there was a big push that you could have, if they win the last game, you could have put them in the top 5 of power rankings of Big 12 to end the season. But they went to Baylor and absolutely got throttled. And again, it's another program. You can't forget what happened all during the season. While they got hot, that cooled off very quickly in Waco. I mean, and when I mean hot, undefeated BYU, they win. Go to Iowa State, they win. I mean, these games, well, I guess it was technically in Kansas City, they win against Iowa State. I mean, they were playing well, but then all that came down to a crashing halt at Baylor. So I got them 10 because, again, while they were playing good, the end of the year did not end the way that I thought that it would, or maybe the way they thought it should.
No. I mean, it just kind of epitomized the state of their program right now. It should be really good, struggled, got really good, and then lost.
Yep.
And it's just kind of what it's been at. And Lawrence, this is a huge season for Lance Leipold's program. We'll see if he can get them into that upper half of the conference solidly. If they play like they can, they will. They'll be there.
Correct. And they're doing a decent job in the portal, so we'll see what happens with Kansas moving forward. At number 9, I have West Virginia. West Virginia was literally the antithesis of this conference. Good weeks, bad weeks. Not even weeks in between, Fitz. Good weeks, bad weeks. That's what West Virginia was all season long. I got them at 9. Look, they made a coaching change, which a lot of people thought was going to happen last year. They had an amazing year, maybe got a little schedule help. This year, they still go back to a bowl game, but they end up making the coaching change. Again, you get new athletic director. If it doesn't go great, they're like, you know what? I want my guy in there. I understand. It's hard to believe that, or hard for me to believe that Rich Rodriguez is that guy. I don't know. Look, I'm not that close to the West Virginia program. I know what I saw from a distance. Rich Rod was trying to get out of there. He finally found a reason to get out of there. He left them in the lurch. There was legal stuff going back and forth. I mean, the way that it ended was an absolute nightmare. Now, there is a ton of big-time boosters in West Virginia that wanted Rich Rodriguez to come back, that never wanted him to leave. But he chose to leave, Fitz. That's the thing. But we can get into that at a different time. 2024, West Virginia is so up and down, but I got him at 9, right in the middle of this conference.
Yep. And I think the two middle programs epitomize the Big 12 and where it was this year. Both teams should have been better, looked better at times, but were better. And I'm going to keep an eye on the Rich Rod experiment because that's what I feel like it is.
Yeah.
We saw 2 programs in this conference bring back former coaches, which is, a good safety net to have. And I feel like this is the bigger risk because he's at a different point of his career than Scott Frost is at UCF. He did a good job last year at Jacksonville State, but now here you are in a more competitive conference than you were the first time around. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. And you're right, TCU, again, they're the same thing as West Virginia. Super high, super low, just not consistent enough. Should have been better than what they were, in my opinion. I think they got the players, but I'm not sure what's going on with maybe the system there and what's happening in Fort Worth. I think TCU is a better program than what they showed this season. I thought this would be a bounce back year. I know TCU fans believe that this should be a bounce back year, and it wasn't. And they got to get it fixed. But maybe it's one of those programs that it's going to be in the middle. Maybe the outlier Fitz was that year that they went to the national championship game. It's starting to feel that way.
Yep.
If they can't get it turned around this coming year and get back to the upper echelon, I think it's safe to say that 2022 was the outlier season for TCU. But in 2024, just middle of the pack, I thought it was a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And this will be a huge season coming up for Sonny Dykes. We'll see if this is what his program is going to be. How long does that 2022 run to the championship game take him? I mean, How much buffer does that give him before he's let go? Are they going to continue to be satisfied in the middle of the pack? I don't think so. I don't know. It's kind of baffling to me to see a coach have such great success in the first year and then kind of come apart. It's really hard to explain, and we're seeing it in other places too.
Right. And it's like they're not missing at quarterback either. Although he's picked the wrong quarterback a couple of times. This year, that wasn't the issue. The quarterback was not the problem at TCU. It's everything else. Defense couldn't stop people. It's just they got to be better, and they should be better. At number 7, here's another program that I think needs to be better, Texas Tech. And there may be some Tech fans that think they need to be higher. I mean, I don't think so. Tech is that program for me that I believe should be better. Got to get over the hump. Got to win that one game, Fitz, where you can say, okay, they won this game, so now they're going to the next level. And they basically, I mean, you win a game, and then all of a sudden you lose a game, and it's like, no, you got to win multiple. You got to keep it going and get over the hump. You can't get to the mountaintop and then stop. You got to continue on, and that's where I think Texas Tech is right at the cusp of being good. Obviously, we'll talk about next season because their transfer portal is going berserk there in Red Raider country. Lord have mercy, are they killing it. But 2024, I just felt like they were there. They had the pieces, but they just couldn't get over the hump. Felt like that Colorado game. If they win that Colorado game, number one, I think they'd have been in the Big 12 title game. But if they win the Colorado game, everybody was watching, and people would have said, okay, Texas Tech, maybe you've arrived. And right now, that's what I'm waiting for. Maybe that's the word I'm waiting for, arrive, that they just haven't arrived yet, and they got to get there.
They got a ton of money through NIL, invested in the portal. We'll see if it improves them. But right now, Coach McGuire's kind of floundering. Maybe this will work. He's touted himself as a Texas high school football coach, getting to coach in the Big 12. Well, you don't have the transfer portal at high school level, so he's learning some tricks here.
Yeah. I feel, again, it's a program for so long, it was kind of out by itself. Well, now it's not, and I feel like that this is the year that it's make or break. It feels like Texas Tech is going for it, Fitz, and I love it. I love that they are, but 2024, I felt like they could have gotten a little bit more, and they just didn't. It's kind of felt like that the last few years. So maybe 2025 will be different. At number 6, I have Kansas State. Some may have Kansas State higher. I don't. The way the season ended, you lose 3 of 4. I'm not counting the bowl game. Kansas State stunk down the stretch. They just did. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I've been very critical of some of the stuff that they do offensively that doesn't maximize players' talents. That goes from the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, and some of the defensive stuff. They just weren't good enough. You lose that game to Houston, and we can talk about Houston fighting and all of that, and they did. Houston's not as talented as Kansas State. That was a game that Kansas State should have won. And I don't care that it was a monsoon outside. You should have won that game by 2 touchdowns, and you didn't. That's a problem.
Right.
Either way, it still wasn't a bad season for Kansas State. And I think that people want to look at it because they won 8 regular season games that somehow it was a bad season. It isn't. 8-4 is not a bad year. But 2 things can be true. Just because it's not a bad year doesn't mean that that's the expectation. And that's the goal. Because 8 wins at Kansas State should not be the goal. And people that are satisfied with that, I would say shame on you because it's a better program than that. So did they underachieve? Yeah, but still not a bad season.
Yeah, and I think a factor here is the uneven scheduling in the conference. Kansas State had to play all 4 schools that tied for first. And each of those schools only played one other school in that grouping. So they had a tough schedule, but it's that Houston loss that cast the shadow across this season, because without that, they're 9-3 with what you could say are 3 understandable losses against good programs. But no, that Houston loss, how it occurred, when it occurred, and how it carried over into the remainder of the season stands out. I think you've got them ranked where they should be, although we saw glimmers of hope in that bowl game once they kind of settled in and found themselves and came back and won. But it doesn't erase the missed opportunity that was 2024.
Correct. At number 5, I've got Baylor. Look, I was one on Baylor. With that Colorado game, it seemed to take everything out of them. It looked like holy mackerel, we just let a game get away that we should have won. And then the next week, they're down 21-0 before you could even blink against BYU at home. And you're thinking, yep, it's over. They've quit. They did not quit. It seemed like, okay, we're down 21-0 after giving a game away on a Hail Mary pass the week before. You know what? It's time to strap this thing up and go play football. And that's exactly what Baylor did. People were already burying Dave Aranda. I was one of them that thought, yeah, you lose to BYU, you're done. And in the first quarter, I'm like, well, he may not make it out to halftime. Well, lo and behold, here they come. It's a testament to Dave Aranda, number one, a testament to those kids for not giving up. And they played really, really good football down the stretch. And I can say this, nobody wanted to play Baylor at the end of the year. Baylor got their offense rolling. They were running that football like crazy. They were play action and throwing the football. Nobody wanted to play Baylor at the end of the year. Now, you could say, well, the bowl game, look what happened in the bowl game. Hey, man, bowl games these days with opt-outs and transfers and this and that, all that stuff going on, it kind of is what it is.
Right.
But near the end of the season, Bowler got it rolling, Fitz, and I think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with next year. I think they're going to be at the top of this conference.
Dave Aranda found his footing. I mean, he'd had success, and then it fell off, and right when you thought it was all about to collapse around him, he found the right note with his team. I thought it was an incredible coaching job this year. So congratulations to him. Next year will be very intriguing to see where he can place him in this conference.
Absolutely. Number 4, I got Colorado. Colorado, again, let one get away against KU. KU was playing really well, but Colorado had a chance to be in a Big 12 title game. Would have set the program up to new heights from where it was 2 years ago and where it was last year. But they let one get away, which means they just weren't ready. In that game, they got physically beat up by Kansas, by the way. They just weren't ready for primetime yet. They're just not ready. That's funny, primetime. I hope Coach Prime stays at Colorado. We got rumors all over the place that Cowboys, Raiders, Giants, all over the place that he's leaving. I don't want him to go anywhere. I think he's good for college football. I think he's even better for Colorado. I think it would do himself justice because I just think he's a college football coach. I really, really do. I think he could be – he's already a star. He's already a star. He could be an enormous star in college football and keep – not that college football is ever going to go away or be irrelevant, but I think it kind of needs a next coaching star, you know. And Nick Saban was a star, whether he wanted to be or not. He was. And he took full advantage. He's doing all those commercials with Coach Prime. You're not doing commercials if you don't believe you're a star. You know, at that part I know. And Coach Prime is that. I think he's got to stay. I think what they did in 2024 is incredible. They were terrible the year before. I'm not saying they were great this year, but I said at the beginning of the year, if they get 6 wins, that Coach Prime should have been the coach of the year. Now, there were other coaches that came along that had better seasons, so can't give him that award. But for what he did to get the 9 wins, even though they got destroyed in the bowl game, and they didn't have any opt-outs. They didn't have that, except maybe at middle linebacker. But I just thought Colorado, their season was pretty damn good, Fitz, considering.
College football needs a refresh in some ways. I feel like Deion Sanders is part of that. Mm-hmm. He's come into Boulder and he's doing things radically different than other people have. And we all poo-pooed it and laughed at it, and he didn't see results, and boom, they go out there and have a pretty good season. And now the question becomes how much of that was because of those 2 great players, including Travis Hunter, the Heisman winner, and his own son, Shedeur Sanders, at quarterback. Those are pretty big pieces to lose for any team, but they seem to be kind of the heart and soul of what this Colorado team was. So now we're going to find out a whole lot more about Coach Sanders. I hope he sets aside this NFL stuff. I'm just going to say it, Coach, I don't see them hiring you. I don't see anyone in the NFL intentionally, and you're kind of a disruptor. And maybe that's what someone will want, but I don't know that these old wealthy owners in the NFL are going to see you as a solution to their problems. That's bluntly honest. And you are a solution to Colorado's problems. you are doing great things and you're impacting lives in a way that you won't do at the NFL. I think you belong in college football. I feel like the message you send your student athletes with how to do things is important and significant. And I hope he stays at Colorado a very long time.
Yeah, I do too. And you're right about the message. The message gets across of, I saw a report yesterday where he came out and said nobody can no kids wear slides to class. Got to sit in the first 2 rows, and if you don't do that, or if you have a bunch of D's and F's on your report card, we're going to start taking your money. Well, that part of it isn't necessarily new. I think it's new to people knowing because they were doing that at Kansas State. Bill Snyder, if you had bad grades or weren't going to class, he was taking your check from you. But having said all of that, the other stuff, that's a great message. Sit in the front row. Don't wear slides to class. And some people are like, well, why does that matter? It's just setting a tone. If you wear slides, it's kind of like you're going to class lazily and you're not going to pay attention. If you have to put on shoes, I know that seems weird, but it really is. And I think he deserves a little bit more respect than what he gets, but also I just want him to stay at Colorado. I think he can do wonders there. He doesn't have to leave. I know they talk about Florida State. Don't do that. Stay at Colorado. Build everything that you want to build there. Kids will come there. Kids went to Colorado before. Kids are coming there now from wherever. You can build something in Colorado if you want to. You want to. So just commit there and stay. But they had a good season. Great season. Not a good season. They had a great season.
Number 3. Big B, let me add a couple things.
I'm sorry.
First of all, Coach, I'm wearing slides right now, so I apologize. Second of all, the greatest lesson I learned when I returned to talk to a journalism class at my alma mater, and I went into the very room where I had a lot of my classes, the lecture hall for journalism type classes and other things. And I stood in the front and I realized I was looking right over the heads of everyone in the front row. If you wanted to hide, you went to the front row. I was staring at the seats that I sat in because I thought that's where I could hide. It didn't work that way. So Coach is giving you great advice. Be in the front row where you can interact with your teacher, but in most cases when he's lecturing, he's going to look right over your head, and you can sit there in your shoes, not your slides. But you shouldn't probably be wearing slides very often in Boulder. I would advise you not to wear them on campus today. Just a little food for thought.
Number 3, I got Iowa State. I feel like Iowa State, look, they had a good season. First of all, they had to battle a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the football. Lord have mercy. I mean, you go through that many linebackers. I mean, it's incredible. Not just, hey, a guy's got a sore elbow or an ankle sprain, season-ending injuries or guys that are out months at a time that going on that defense. It was absolutely incredible that they were able to stay afloat. They did. Now, they had a good offense. They could throw it. And when they wanted to, they could run it. They could move the football. But I felt like that game against Arizona State was kind of the epitome of, okay, they're going to play smash mouth. We're beat up, and we're not going to be able to stop this. And they weren't. It's just they let the game they got physical, and they weren't able to keep up. But as far as, look, they won 10 games for the first time in school history, which I thought was weird. I didn't think that was a real thing, but it was. 10 games for the first time in school history. Matt Campbell's name is coming up with the Chicago Bears job, for crying out loud. It seems like his name was coming up every year for these other college jobs. Now it's coming up for an NFL job. This is another one. I don't know that he should move on. No. I think he is an Iowa State person. Mm-hmm. Go get your statue there, Coach. Go build that legacy as big as you want it. They love you at Iowa State. I'm sure he loves them back. Good community. I think they had a good year this year. They did. I feel like I think they think they let one get away. I don't necessarily think so. I think Arizona State was better than them, but some of that was because, look, Iowa State was beat up, and Arizona State, we're going to be physical, and Iowa State just couldn't match that. Having said all of that, great season, great coach. Iowa State at number 3 in the rankings.
I tell you what, I felt like in the past, Matt Campbell's had some good seasons, but maybe underperformed with the talent level he had.
Right.
Some of those teams he had, there's dudes running around the NFL still. I mean, there's some really good football players that have come through. I feel like this has been the opposite the last 2 years. I think he's coaching his ass off. I think he's done a tremendous job the way last year started, and boom, they got it going. I feel like he's found his footing as a college coach. To go to the NFL at this moment, unless the offer is so significant that you can't lose,
Right.
you either succeed or you get paid a lot of money to fail, and it sets you up with generational wealth. Unless that's going on, I hope he stays. He's good for the Big 12. He's great for Iowa State. He's turning into a hell of a football coach, and he seems to be locked in pretty well on the formula that works in Ames. And that won't be the same formula that might work at another school if he ends up in college football on down the road somewhere else. I hope he looks down the road, sees what Bill Snyder did at Kansas State, and decides this is my home. I don't need to move around. I could make more money. I could maybe have bigger fame, but this is my sweet spot. This is my happy place. Just stay in Ames, Coach.
Absolutely. Great season. Like I said, first 10-win season in Iowa State history. Number 2, I've got BYU. BYU was a surprise to everybody. Played really physical. There were some BYU fans that got after me early saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about. They're not physical. I'm like, hey, man, I'm just telling you what they told me at Media Day, is that they literally told me that we weren't physical last year. We underestimated the physicality of the Big 12. Well, we had to be more physical this year, and that's what we focused all off season, and everything in doing was being more physical. They did that, and look at the results. I don't think BYU is going anywhere. I think BYU, I don't think this is a fluke. Now, it may turn out to be, but I don't believe that it is. I think BYU is in a conference where they always wanted to be. They're in a conference with teams that are, and when I say on par, that kind of do things the same way that they do. Right. Developmental, yes, we'll go into the portal. I said, but the blue-collar type of a football team. This is what BYU is. I thought they got cheated out of being in the college football playoff. I thought they should have been in. There was 2 teams that they should have been in over, in my opinion, maybe 3. But I absolutely thought they should have been there. Didn't get any respect all year. Heck, half the year I didn't give them respect. But they were definitely the second best team in this conference.
Absolutely, they were. This incredible coaching job by Kalani Sitake. Maybe the nicest guy in college football is rewarded. This is another situation where I feel like the coach is in the right place at the right program, doing the right things, and we're seeing success. I hope he doesn't leave, but that's also the history of BYU football. As coaches come, and if they succeed, they stay. And I hope that is the case. I'm fairly positive it will be. It's home. It's literally where he belongs. And boy, it was a good football team. Were they great? No, but that's a sign of great coaching. Is he got everything out of them. And they had the hiccup against Kansas that cost them dearly, but boy, I tell you what, that was fun to watch unless you were the opponent on that day, because that was a well put together team.
Yeah, it was very well put together. Physical. Like I keep going back to that, but that's what they were. They were a physical football team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Very interested to see what they come back with next year, but had a great year in 2024. And then the top team in the Big 12, without any question, is Arizona State. Look, Arizona State, number 1, represented the Big 12 very well in the college football playoff. Got robbed. I don't want to hear it. They got robbed. Having said all of that, what they were able to do after being picked last by basically everybody, myself included, to finish in this conference, and for them to finish first, number 1, it doesn't mean that the conference was down, because that's what everybody's going to tell you, is that the conference was down. That's why they were able to win. No, it doesn't mean that. They were a really good football team, and they showed it. They literally showed it. You know, when they got on the national stage, on the big stage, they showed how good they absolutely were. So I am interested to see what they do. Look, they're going to do good things in the portal. They got people coming in with recruiting. They have an outstanding coach. They got a fan base that's huge, that was just waiting for something positive to get behind. They've now got that. we talk about sleeping giants a lot with Houston and UCF. I don't think there's a bigger sleeping giant than Arizona State, Fitz.
I agree.
I really don't. And now they're not sleeping anymore. They're awake, and it's going to be interesting. But they had an outstanding 2024 season.
You know what they did that I don't think any other team in the Big 12 managed? Consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Once they settled in, they had that midseason loss. I believe it's Cincinnati.
It was.
And then they just found themselves settled in. Sam Levitt stayed healthy. They even won with Cam Scadaboo out. But as the season grew, they realized these teams can't stop Cam Scadaboo. And he can set a tone for us that opens up everything else. It was an incredible coaching job, a incredible job by the players of executing. But that level of consistency they showed over the last half of the season, what was entirely lacking from many of the Big 12 teams, and it about took them to the college football playoff semifinals. And we saw the game it should have.
Yeah, it should have. But yeah, what they're doing and what they did has to be commended. Maybe he gets a lot of National Coach of the Year honors. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. I think he should. Neither here nor there. Bottom line, Arizona State's on the map. Yep. They are absolutely on the map. Now, you got to continue. You talked about consistency. They got to do it again. But as far as 2024 is concerned, they put themselves on the map and set themselves up to be an outstanding football program moving forward in the Big 12 Conference, Fitz.
Agreed. I'm all in on Arizona State. And I would, as I sit here now, I got to, of course, have plenty of time to think about my ballot. I'd probably put them at top of for next season also. But that may not be good for Arizona State either. I don't know if I want to do that to them because my ballot usually sucks.
Yeah, I
they all do, apparently.
So, well, I appreciate everybody being in here. Thank you guys again, as always, for joining in. That's going to be a wrap on the 2024 football. As far as talking about individual games, we'll get into obviously more college football playoff stuff, but we got to turn our attention to basketball. It's just that time. Basketball needs our attention. So hopefully you guys will be there with us. So we'll get into a lot of that and more. We appreciate everything that you guys have done to support the channel. Continue to do that. Like, follow, subscribe. Continue to hit the notification bell. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.